embodied understanding. You know, these are what I call the little ahas. It's like, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way before. And so there's this interesting paradox about how we are in our way of being as a learner. How does that influence to learn about way of being and the applications of these distinctions in this domain? Okay. Now, if I swing over here, Maturana's got a view on problem solving and intelligence. Problem solving, he claims, is behaving adequately to meet the requirements of circumstances, particular circumstances. Behaving adequately to meet the requirements of particular circumstances.
Sorry, what was that from?
Behaving adequately.
No, sorry.
Intelligence. No, this is problem solving, which is part of intelligence. So, for example, we just had a breakdown with the camera. We find a way to behave adequately to get the camera to operate. Maturana says intelligence is when a living system is able to continually behave adequately to meet the changing requirements of circumstances. So this is what we would call adjusting and adapting, being flexible.
Can you repeat the definition? To continually...
Continually behaving adequately to meet the requirements of changing circumstances. Now this links back to what we looked at breakdowns this weekend. Mastering life is mastering dealing with breakdowns. It's all about our way of being, how that sets us up to be in relationship with breakdowns, and our versatility and flexibility to be able to flex and find ways to deal with it. Okay, now over here, I thought this in bed last night. Not to pull it up. What Maturana's calling this area here that I call like his kind of social, his communication theory, is biology of language and biology of love. And his big claim, his contentious claim, is that language arose in humans primarily through the emotioning of love. Now, love, we have a certain conception of love, but love for him is this notion of mutual acceptance, equal others, legitimate others. His technical wording is love is when we allow another to arise as a legitimate other in coexistence with us.
But when you say allow another to perturb our nervous system.
Intensely.
It happens.
Well, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
But we allow them to arise as a legitimate other in coexistence with us.
But war also produces a lot of language, for example, strategies based on war. I mean, without war, there would be no strategy.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think he's arguing against that. What he's looking at is how did language arise in the first place in humans, and then his theory is what's the place of this interpretation of love. But,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the mythology behind the Bible, for example, the humankind. I mean, again, these are stories. Okay, I'm not trying to be guru Christian here, but it arises through hatred.
Language.
Sort of, because the how the humankind develop is because there's separation, there's suffering, so I'm questioning that.
Yes.
Because I think that it's also because of the negation of the other and the conflict that arises out of this that language can surface. Because if everybody loves everybody, you just stay where you are. You just like, hey, it's heaven. It's the sort of the Eden, Garden of Eden,
Yeah.
And then suddenly somebody, decides to break a rule or decides to become against. So in that case, again, following the story of the Bible, Eve deciding to disobey God,
Yeah.
talking to the snake, and then suddenly they're thrown out, and then they live in suffering, and the two brothers kill one another, and that's sort of how
that's all incorporated. Love isn't being lovey-dovey, right? Going along with everything in it. Love includes you make your stand, what you appropriately, if you need to be appropriately assertive, even aggressive. Okay. Depends what you mean by aggression. So let me keep going and come back to your point. No, that's a good one.
Sorry to keep it off sidetrack, but what we're saying here is I know we haven't, I haven't accepted your definition of love yet because I'm still exploring it, but is it about caring then? I'm angry with you because I care about you.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yes. Yeah.
In that sense.
And the manner in which I go about it doesn't negate you, doesn't delegitimize you.
Yeah, I'm not being angry with you because I don't think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm being angry with you because I care for you.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a contentious word.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's thrown a lot of people off because we've got such an embedded meaning of love. And so I'm okay if you just go, well, why didn't you just say mutual acceptance? But I think he's using the language deliberately.
To perturb us, perhaps.
So his theory about how language arose is because when humans, way back, to when we were existing in what anthropologists tell us, were basically family size units, 8 to 10, where we were continually, our world was dominated by continuing to exist, get enough water and food, etc., and shelter, and the innate desire to procreate the species. He said that for that tribe, that clan to continue, they needed to cooperate. They needed to coordinate action so that they could fill requirements for the group to survive as a social unit. And so he said, if there isn't mutual acceptance of each other, that couldn't happen. If you're continually in conflict with each other, then you wouldn't be cooperating, and it would compromise how you could coordinate action to fulfill the requirements. And he said out of that, so this is the consensuality. There's an agreement about what we need to do to continue to function as a unit. A lot of that's just by people learning to do things and it's serving the needs of the clan. And he said out of that, we develop distinctions. We develop ways of distinguishing aspects of the environment and how we would relate to that, how the environment would be a source for us. Distinctions about how we would develop practices amongst ourselves. And because of the biological capacity of humans with the larynx and all the things that enable us to speak, we're able to use that. You might remember the example of the wolf girls that were brought up in an environment that didn't facilitate language, even though they had the biological capacity, that they weren't able to develop language.
So you're saying if they didn't have women, they're using grants for language?
Well, let me come back to that, because he's got a very interesting theory on the role of human sexuality in the development of language.
Really?
And we'll just check what Jeremy's question is.
Yeah, I think my question is just to clear in my own mind that will reconcile that with my understanding is how we develop the capacity to be able to speak, which was, some people say it was the rooted in displays of